What it means when he's married but can't forget you. Picture this. You're just living your life. It's not looking for anyone. It's not asking for attention. But then he appears. He is attentive, interested, present. He listens to you in a way that seems rare these days. He stays close. It takes time to leave. But there is one detail that changes everything. He is married. And yet, something in his presence pulls you in. Or maybe something in you responds to his energy. You didn't start this, but now you're here. And the question echoes in your mind. What does it really mean when a married man can't forget you? Let's go deeper. Not with judgment, but with the naked truth. Because according to Carl Jung, this is not about romance. It's not even about you. It's about him and what's unresolved within him. When a married man doesn't forget you, it's rarely just attraction. It's rarely just physical desire. It's about a yearning to find something he's lost within himself. Jung called this the search for feminine energy within the male unconscious. It's not just a woman he wants. 1. You woke up his sleeping anima. Within each man there is an image of the feminine that he has always carried. Jung called it anima. It's not the wife, it's not his girlfriend. She is no real woman. It is an energy, an essence, a mystery that lives deep within the male psyche. When he was a boy, that energy was alive. He felt curiosity, admiration, fascination with the emotional world. But then life happened. Society told him to be strong, rational, controlled. He said not to cry, not to feel too much, not to get lost in emotions. And little by little, this feminine part inside him was buried, forgotten, asleep. Then you appear, and without doing anything special, you awaken that energy in him. Maybe it's the way you talk, how you laugh, how you're not afraid to feel things deeply. Maybe it's the spontaneity, the lightness, the way you exist without having to prove anything. Suddenly, in her presence, he feels something he hasn't felt in years. He feels alive inside again. It's not about sex. It's not about betrayal. It's about reconnecting with a part of him that was dead. His marriage probably became functional. Bills to pay, children to raise, routines to maintain. His wife became a business partner for life. And in this process, the soul was left aside. The mystery has disappeared. Emotional depth has been replaced by to-do lists. So when you come up and bring back that feeling of being connected to something bigger, something deeper, it finds itself pulled towards you like a magnet. The problem is that he mistakes you for anima. He thinks you're the answer. He thinks that being with you will solve the emptiness he feels. But the truth is, you just reflected back to him something that was already inside him all along. You were the mirror that showed him how much he disconnected from himself. And now he can't forget you because to forget you would be to forget that part of him that has finally come back to life. That doesn't mean he really loves you. It means he loves the feeling of being whole again. And you, unintentionally, became the symbol of that. You represent everything he lost when he decided to be just practical, just responsible, just the man everyone expected him to be. In your presence, he can be more than that. It can be complex, contradictory, emotional. It can be human again. But here's the part that no one tells you. He will never really choose you until he understands that what he is looking for is not in you. It's in it. Anima is not an external woman. It's an internal journey. And until he makes this journey alone, he will continue to project onto you something you never asked to carry. You have become the guardian of a part of his soul, and that's too heavy for anyone to carry. 2. You represent life not lived. Everyone has a parallel life that they have never lived. The choices they didn't make, the paths they didn't follow, the versions of themselves that were left behind. Jung talked about it as the untrodden path, and he said that the older a person gets, the more this phantom life begins to weigh down. For a married man who follows the expected path, getting married, having children, building a career, buying a house, this parallel life can become a silent presence that haunts him. You come into his life and somehow embody this life that he didn't live. Perhaps he married too young. Perhaps he chose security over passion. Maybe he followed the script his parents wrote instead of writing his own. And now, looking at you, he sees the freedom he never had. You see the spontaneity he sacrificed. See the adventure he let pass. You don't have to be extraordinary to represent that. You just need to be different from what he knows. If his life is predictable, you are unpredictable. If his marriage is safe, you are a risk. If his routine is gray, you are color. You become the embodiment of everything he gave up when he said yes to the life he has now. And that creates a powerful fixation. He looks at you and thinks about what could have been. Think of the version of him that would travel more, that he would be more daring, that he would follow his own instincts instead of the expectations of others. Think of the man he would have been if he had made different choices, and in some twisted way, he begins to believe that being with you would be like going back in time and correcting those choices, as if you were a door to that parallel life. But the reality is cruel. That life no longer exists. That moment has passed. The doors he didn't walk through are closed now. And you're not a time machine. You are a real person with your own life, your own dreams, your own complexities. But he can't see it, because he's blinded by the projection. He is so caught up in the fantasy of what could have been that he cannot see what he really is. The weight of this for you is immense. You become the symbol of all his regrets, of all the missed opportunities, of all the courage he didn't have. And the more he idealizes you, the less he sees you as a human being. You become an idea, a concept, a fantasy. And when fantasy is confronted with reality, when you show that you also have problems, needs, imperfections, he may even be disappointed. Because you broke the illusion. The brutal truth is that he can't forget you, because to forget you would be to accept that that other life will never happen. It would be accepting the choices he made. It would be to make peace with the path he has taken. And many men would rather live in fantasy than face that reality. So you get stuck in this strange space, being at the same time everything and nothing to it. What the mind tries to forget, the soul keeps remembering. There's a reason he still feels you, and you'll understand why inside the Jung Method. Link pinned in the first comment. Let's begin. 3. You are his mirror of his shadow. Jung had a powerful concept called shadow. It is everything that a person rejects in himself. Everything he was taught to hide, repress, deny. For a man who has built a respectable life, a solid image, a clean reputation, the shadow carries everything he considers unacceptable, the desires he judges wrong, the impulses he learned to control, the parts of him that don't fit in the neat life he built. When you show up, something strange happens. You reflect back to him those hidden parts. Maybe you're freer with your desires. Maybe you're not afraid of being imperfect. Maybe you live in a way that he secretly envies but never admits out loud. And this creates a magnetic and disturbing attraction at the same time. He is attracted to exactly what he rejects in himself. If he has always been the controlled man, you may represent the spontaneity he killed within him. If he's always been the right guy, you can embody the rebellion he buried. If he has always followed the rules, you show that it is possible to live outside of them. And this fascinates and terrifies him in equal measure, because being close to you means being close to the parts of him that he's spent his whole life trying to stifle. Marriage often functions as a golden prison for the shadow. He married someone who reinforces the image he wants to show to the world, someone who keeps him in line, who represents the values he says he has. But the shadow does not disappear just because it has been denied. It sits there, growing in the dark, waiting for a breach to emerge. And you became that breach. In her presence, he can experience these forbidden parts without taking full responsibility for them. He may blame you for awakening something in him. You can say that you seduced him, that you got him out of the way, when in fact you only showed what was already there, pulsing beneath the surface the whole time. You didn't create anything, you just revealed it. The danger of this is that the shadow comes laden with shame. The closer he gets to you, the closer he gets to the parts of him that he despises. And this can create a destructive cycle. He wants you, but then he hates himself for wanting you. It looks for you, but then pushes you away. He is caught between attraction and repulsion, between desire and guilt. and you stand in the middle of this internal battlefield that isn't even yours. He can't forget you, because you carry the mirror of his truth. And as long as he doesn't integrate these rejected parts, as long as he doesn't make peace with the shadow itself, you're going to continue to be a disturbing presence in his life. You represent everything that he cannot be publicly but secretly desires. And that's too powerful to just forget. The cruel irony is that if he really did the inner work of accepting his shadow, of integrating these denied parts, the obsession with you would probably disappear, because you would no longer be the only place where he can find those parts of himself. But few men do this work. It's easier to keep projecting, to keep wishing, to keep getting stuck in the fantasy that you're the solution to his inner conflict. 4. Marriage has become persona. You are the real self. The persona is the social mask that everyone wears. It is the edited version of ourselves that we show the world. For a married man, marriage often becomes part of that mask. He is the responsible husband, the present father, the reliable provider. He plays this role so well that he sometimes forgets where the mask ends and where the real man begins. Over time, this persona swallows everything. The family dinners where he smiles politely, the social gatherings where he represents the perfect couple, the superficial conversations about bills, children's school, home renovation. All of this builds a layer upon layer of automatic behavior. It has been running on autopilot for so long that it no longer even remembers what it feels like to feel something genuine. Then you come in, and in his presence, something in him relaxes. He doesn't need to represent. It doesn't have to be the exemplary husband, the responsible man, the version approved by society. With you, it can be messy, contradictory, confusing. It can admit doubts. It may show weakness. It can be human instead of perfect. And that sense of authenticity becomes addictive. What happens is that you have become the only space where he can take off his mask. Marriage became performance, but you became refuge. With his wife, he feels he needs to maintain the facade. You need to be strong, decisive, in control. But with you, it can come crashing down. You may doubt it, can be vulnerable without fear of judgment. And it creates a deeper emotional connection than he ever thought possible. Jung warned about the danger of living too much in the persona. When the mask becomes more real than the face beneath it, the person loses touch with who they really are. And many marriages work just like that. Two actors playing the roles of husband and wife, but completely forgetting about the real human beings behind those roles. Intimacy disappears. Genuine connection dies. All that remains is the staging. You represent the possibility of being real again. To exist without a script. To feel without having to filter everything through social expectations. And when a man experiences this after years of living imprisoned in the persona, it's like breathing clean air for the first time. He doesn't want to go back to prison, even though it's a comfortable, socially approved prison. The problem is that this dynamic is unsustainable. You shouldn't be responsible for keeping him connected with his real self. That's his job. And as long as he uses you as an outlet for the persona, he will never face the real problem of having built a life based on appearances. His wedding doesn't have to be a performance. He chose it to be so. And until he faces that choice, you'll remain the only witness to the real man behind the mask. He can't forget you, because with you, he remembers who he is. And coming home means going back to the character. It means putting on the mask again. It means abandoning authenticity in the name of stability. And the more time he spends between these two worlds, the more impossible it becomes to choose one. Because choosing marriage means killing the real self. And choosing you means destroying the life that took years to build. 5. You brought back the wild man. There is within every man a primitive force which civilization tries to tame. Jung talked about ancestral archetypes, that raw energy that connects modern man with his ancestors, hunters, warriors, explorers. This force is not evil. It is just raw, instinctive, not domesticated. But society teaches from an early age that this energy needs to be contained, controlled, channeled into productive things. Work, responsibility, predictability. When a man marries and builds a structured life, this wild energy is usually the first thing he sacrifices. He learns to wake up at the same time, follow the same routine, make the same safe decisions. Life becomes a sequence of obligations fulfilled. And that spark of unpredictability, that taste for adventure, that desire to take risks and explore is being extinguished day after day until he doesn't even recognize that part of himself anymore. You appear, and without realizing it, you light up something that had been off for years. Maybe it's the way you live with less fear. Maybe it's the energy you bring, something less tame, less predictable. Suddenly, in your presence, he feels that adrenaline that he hasn't felt since his youth, that feeling of being truly alive, of doing something that is not in the script approved by responsible adult life. This has nothing to do with you being better or worse than his wife. It has to do with the fact that you represent something outside of his comfort zone. You are the unknown. And the unknown always awakens the wild man who was asleep under the responsibilities. Every conversation with you is a little adventure. Every encounter is a risk. And after years of living without risk, it becomes irresistible. His marriage probably became too secure, too comfortable, too predictable. There are no more surprises, no more discoveries. Everything has already been mapped, known, mastered. And for the wild man within, this is a slow death. He needs a challenge. It needs mystery. He needs to feel that he is still capable of conquering something, of exploring unknown territory, of proving his vitality. With you, he feels like a hunter again. Not in the predatory sense, but in the archetypal sense. He goes back to chasing something, to feel that you need to make an effort to gain attention, to maintain interest, to prove value. And this awakens a deep masculine part that was atrophied. In domestic life, he does not need to achieve anything. Everything is already guaranteed. And paradoxically, this guarantee kills desire. You have become the symbol of the freedom he lost, the reminder that he is still capable of feeling intense emotions, of making risky decisions, of living outside the box that he himself built. And the more time passes, the harder it becomes to return to that predictable life after having tasted the taste of adventure again. Even if it's a wrong adventure, even if it's an adventure that can destroy everything, the problem is that it confuses you with the sensation you elicit. He thinks he needs you when in fact he needs to reconnect with this wild energy in a healthy way. He must find adventure in his own life without destroying everything. He needs to feed this part of him without betraying commitments. But it requires inside work that most men aren't willing to do. It's easier to project onto you the responsibility of keeping it alive. 6. You are the never-healed wound of his childhood. Everyone carries wounds from childhood, needs that have not been met, loves that were not received, validations that never came. Jung said that we spend our entire lives trying to heal these wounds, often through the people we choose. And a married man who can't forget you may be seeing in you the promise of healing for something that was broken long ago. Maybe his mother was cold and you're warm. Maybe he grew up without receiving genuine attention and you really listened to him. Maybe he was raised in an environment where showing emotions was weakness and you accept his vulnerability without judgment. Somehow, you offer something that he has spent his whole life looking for without knowing he was looking for. This creates a dangerous emotional dependency. He's not in love with you as a complete and complex person. He's in love with the feeling of finally getting what he's always needed. You become the mother he didn't have, the validation he always lacked, the hug he never received. And that's too heavy for any relationship to carry because it's not love. It is a need disguised as love. His marriage probably doesn't touch those deep wounds. The wife can be a good companion, but she does not reach these hurt places deep inside. Maybe because he never showed those parts to her. Maybe because she also has her own wounds and can't take care of his. Or perhaps simply because the dynamics between them never allowed for that level of vulnerability. With you, something different happened. Maybe he opened up in a way he never opened up before. Maybe you've touched these wounds without even realizing it. And now he associates you with the one person who has ever made you feel seen, understood, accepted in the most broken parts of him. This creates a bond that seems impossible to break, because it is rooted in very old needs. The danger here is that you become a therapist without having signed for that role. He dumps on you all the unprocessed pain of decades, all the need, all the emptiness, and he expects you to fill holes that were dug long before you existed in his life. No one can carry that weight. No one should have to carry it. In addition, relationships built on unhealed wounds are unstable, because when the wound eventually heals, or when he realizes that you can't heal him after all, idealization falls apart. You go from savior to disappointment, and he may even turn on you, blaming you for not being the magical cure he envisioned. He can't forget you because you've moved in places that no one else can reach, because you woke up pains that were numb, and now whenever he thinks of you, he feels both the relief of being seen and the anguish of knowing that this healing is not real, that you can't fix what his parents broke, that he needs to do this work alone. The truth is that until he heals these wounds on his own, he will continue to look for in women what only therapy and inner work can offer. And you will be stuck in this impossible role of being simultaneously the cause of his hope and frustration, because you have shown that healing is possible, but you cannot deliver it. Only he can. 7. You broke the perfect life script. Every man who follows the traditional path has a script in his head. Study, work, get married, buy a house, have children, build a career, retire. It is the script that society writes even before he was born. And for years he follows this script, believing that happiness is at the end of this sequence. That if he does everything right, everything will magically fall into place. But real life doesn't work like that. Promotion does not bring satisfaction. The big house looks empty. Children grow up and grow apart. Marriage becomes a mechanical routine. And he looks around and realizes that he has done everything he was supposed to do, but he still feels lost. He still feels that something is missing. And the worst thing is that he can't admit it because it would be admitting that the whole script was wrong. Then you appear, and simply by existing, you expose the lie. You show that following the script does not guarantee anything, that the perfect life on paper can be empty in practice, that he sacrificed true desires in the name of a security that never brought peace. And that's terrifying to him because it means that maybe he's wasted years living the wrong life. In your presence, he experiences something that was not in the script, a genuine connection, an intense emotion, a sense of being alive that he hasn't felt in years. And this creates a deep existential crisis, because if you can make him feel that way now, it means that his marriage was never what he thought it was. It means that he built a life based on duties and not on true desires. You become living proof that he was mistaken, that the neat life that everyone envies on the outside is hollow on the inside. And he can't forget you because you're the witness to this inconvenient truth. Whenever he comes home, to the routine, to the script, he remembers you and feels the contrast. Feel the difference between what is expected and what is real. His marriage became a golden prison. Everything works. Everything is in place. But nothing pulsates. There is no real life. Only the imitation of life. The staging of what a wedding should be. And after experiencing something genuine with you even for a short time, going back to the staging becomes unbearable. It's like watching a black and white movie after seeing the world in color. He begins to question everything. The choices he made, the person she married, the path he followed. And instead of taking responsibility for those choices, he projects the solution onto you. He thinks that being with you would be the answer. That starting over by his side would be to correct the mistake, when in fact the mistake was not the marriage itself. It was following the script without ever stopping to ask if that was what he really wanted. The weight it puts on you is absurd. You didn't ask to be the disruption in his organized life. He did not ask to expose the cracks in the perfect facade. You only existed in an authentic way, and that was enough to make his house of cards crumble. And now he blames you and desires you at the same time. It hates you for showing the truth and can't forget you because you're the only real thing in the midst of so much falsehood. The irony is that if he really had the courage, he would use this crisis to rebuild his own life, to question the script, to make conscious choices instead of automatic ones. But most don't. Prefer to be trapped in the fantasy that you are the magic solution, that it is enough to be with you for everything to be resolved, when the truth is that the problem was never the wife or the marriage. It was the lack of courage to live a true life from the beginning. 8. You are the symbol of individuation he fears. Jung dedicated his life to the concept of individuation. It's the process of becoming who you really are, to integrate all parts of the psyche, to stop living on automatic and start making conscious choices, to become whole. And this process is terrifying because it requires a person to face everything that he has avoided his entire life. All inconvenient truths, all fears buried, all parts rejected. For a married man living on autopilot for years, you represent the call to this journey. You are the symbol that there is a more authentic life waiting on the other side of fear, that it is possible to live with more truth, more depth, more alignment between what he feels inside and what he shows outside. And this is both tempting and terrifying, because accepting this call means dismantling everything. It means questioning marriage, questioning the career, questioning the choices. It means entering an unknown territory where there are no guarantees. It means giving up security in exchange for authenticity, and very few men have the courage to do that. It's easier to stay in the comfort zone, even if it's a miserable comfort zone. So he gets stuck. It desires you because you represent the possibility of transformation, but it fears you for the same reason, because choosing you would mean choosing the path of individuation. It would mean facing who he really is, instead of continuing to be who everyone expects him to be. And this perspective is paralyzing. You became the symbol of everything he could be if he had the courage, of the life he could live if he wasn't so afraid, of the man he could become if he did the necessary inner work. And that's why he can't forget you, because to forget you would be to give up the possibility of transformation. It would be accepting that he will die without ever having truly been himself. His marriage represents the known path, safe, predictable, socially approved. You represent the unknown path, risky, uncertain, but potentially liberating. And he is torn between these two paths without being able to choose either, because choosing marriage means betraying yourself, and choosing you means facing the chaos of transformation. Jung said that individuation is not optional, that at some point in life, especially in middle age, the psyche forces this journey. And when the person resists, crises arise. The inexplicable depressions, the obsessions, destructive behaviors. What is happening is that the soul is screaming, asking to be heard, and you became the voice of that cry. He can't forget you because you're the mirror showing everything he hasn't yet had the courage to become. Every time he looks at you, he sees the reflection of the man he could be. And that's too painful to ignore, but also too scary to embrace. So he stays in this limbo, desiring you from a distance, idealizing you in fantasy, but never taking the real attitude that the transformation would require. The brutal truth is that you can't make that journey for him. Individuation is solitary. It is a job that each person needs to do alone. And as long as he expects you to be the solution, as long as he believes that being with you is enough to become whole, he will remain imprisoned, because the answer was never in you. It has always been in it. You only showed the way. But walking through it is his responsibility.